Okay. Welcome to episode 1 of What's the Yarn podcast. My name is Clinton Bennell. I'm a Noongar man and Wiradjuri man. And today's recording is on Turrbal and Yagara's country. And I just want to acknowledge and pay my respects and acknowledge that sovereignty never ceded. I also acknowledge and pay my respect to Yagara and Turrbal's elders and leaders, past, present, and emerging, and respect their ongoing spiritual and cultural connection to the land and surrounding waters. And I extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that are listening today. And lastly, I'd also like to acknowledge our allies who support our business. So today we have our very first guest, Verhonda Bonnie Smith-Robbins. Thank you for joining us, Bon. Do you just want to give a quick acknowledgement of the country that you're on today, please?
Yeah, sure. I'd just like to acknowledge the Yirraganji and Yidinji people. I'm currently in Cairns on Gimoy country. So yeah, just wanted to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging from where I am today.
Deadly. Thanks, Bon. This has been a bit of a crazy ride for us, Bon. This is our second time trying to record this yarn, and I do appreciate your commitment to doing this. We've had we've had a lot of like technical issues. For example, our first recording, there was no sound, but prior to that realization, there was a lot of just errors but this is a learning journey for us. We'll get better at that, but basically so basically we just want to hear your story, Bon, and share that yarn. And I think it's really important that we do that, because I think you're a very inspirational person. Definitely inspire me, and I think you go on to continue to inspire other communities as well. So I think the next step is who are you, Bon? Like, who's your mob, and where do you come from, and where did you grow up?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, thanks for having me on here again, Clinton. So my name is Verhonda Smith-Robbins, but everyone calls me Bonnie. I'm a proud Wonkamara woman from Birkin, New South Wales, but I grew up in Melbourne on Wiradjuri country. I grew up in Melbourne. I was born in Bourke, grew up in Melbourne, and moved back to Bourke, and now I'm actually living in Cairns. So I've moved up here. I'll be here for 12 months next month. So a year in Cairns, crazy.
Wow, that came up quick, because I remember when I saw it in social media, and I was like, oh, what are you doing up there? And then you're living there. So wow, 12 months.
Yeah, I know, it's gone so quickly, but it's really exciting.
And they just can't get rid of you, can they?
No one can. Like you can get rid of me.
No, we love you, Bon. One of the main reasons I wanted to have this yarn with you is, and it wasn't until we'd met through IMP that I found this out, but you're somewhat of a social media or Instagram influencer. And I'd love to get that story from you. So why don't you tell the people that are listening what 5 a.m. Sisters is?
Yep. So 5 a.m. Sisters is one of our Instagram accounts that me and a few friends or sister girls had created. So it's blown up in the last, I don't know, couple of years. It really just started off as an accountability page. So a few of us were doing the F45 8-week challenge, and we just sort of came up with this idea to record and share, some of the things that we were doing, but also to keep ourselves accountable. So we jumped on, and we were just sharing the workouts, what we were eating, and just keeping an eye on each other. But then it sort of just, more people started following us, and like I say, we act like we're big social media gurus, but we've got over 1,000 followers. But yeah, it sort of just blew up into something that shifted from the accountability idea. So it ended up turning into being a fitness page and a well-being page kind of for us women, and to inspire other women, and not even just women, but all sort of Indigenous people, anyone who sort of wanted to follow our journey. And we just wanted to share real life, day-to-day things that we do to try and keep fit, healthy, and keep our well-being in check. So we like to share all things real. I think it's sort of, we created that accountability page, and it sort of shifted to sharing real stories. I think there's so much, there's so many people on social media these days that just sort of post, the end of the journey, or, like fitness gurus, or, like real fit six packs. And like, don't get me wrong, like, good on those people, it's amazing. But I think we wanted to share real life journeys, and, talk about how hard it can be to be keeping yourself active and fit, and keeping on top of your own mental health and stuff like that. So yeah, we created 5 a.m. Sisters. It's sort of snowballed into something, but those are always like deep conversations that we have with each other anyway on a day-to-day. And I think a lot of people can relate to us, and I think that's why people do enjoy following our page, because what we do share is real. Like, yes, we do love to share like the medal at the end of the race, but we like to show the journey, like, those 5:30 wake ups and getting out in the hot heat or in the pouring rain, and talking about, oh my gosh, like those burpees killed me. So just talking about real life things, and trying to using that platform to try and encourage other people to look after themselves in the best way possible that they can. And sorry, I'm rambling again, but
it's amazing, Bon. I think it's such a great thing for community to see, because that important message of looking after yourself and being physically healthy, but also that mental approach as well, being mentally well. But my one question is, it's 5 a.m. That's early. Like, is that a requirement, or like what's the go?
No, so the name sort of started because when we were doing the F45 challenge, we were doing the 5 a.m. classes. So we became 5 a.m. We were like, oh, let's call ourselves 5 a.m. Sisters, because we're up at 5 a.m. doing the workout. But then over time, like, some of us were doing 5 a.m., some of us were doing, the 6 a.m. or even evening sessions. So it just stuck. But we like it.
I was gonna say, I can't be a 5 a.m. brother, but I could probably be a 5:30 p.m.
yeah, and that's what heaps of people say to us too, But I think, it sort of just started from that accountability page, and then we liked it, so we just stuck with it. And it doesn't matter like what time of day you work out, but I think it sort of goes to show too, like when we were in that phase of our lives, like, that was how hard, like, we were going hard for that challenge, like we were up, we were meal prepping, we were doing everything. And I think if you started following us right from then, and you see how it's transformed to what we do now, it's been totally different, because over time, like, yes, you can do like really hard challenges and stuff, but then, once that's done, okay, then what are you doing every other day of your life, and how can you adapt and still look after yourself? And I think the beauty of our 5 a.m. Sisters page is that we're all Indigenous women, and we all have different backgrounds in terms of like our family. Like, my sister's on there and she's a mother, and then there's me who's a single woman living in Cairns, and like, we've just got a different we're all like, we're not all doing the same thing. So it's really interesting to see. It's really interesting to see.
It's a good representation of like a diverse group of women. So but I think you're missing out on like a pretty big strength from some of the women on there. Like, is it three of you have done a marathon?
Yes, we have.
Yeah. Why don't you yarn to us about that?
Yeah, so my sister Jacinta, she did IMP in 2016. And I guess that could lead into how I started doing IMP and led into the program. But yeah, she did.
Just want to quickly, just sorry to cut you off, sis, but do you want to just quickly explain what IMP is, just for some of the people that are listening that don't really have that connection?
Yeah, sure. So IMP is the Indigenous Marathon Project, falls under the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. And each year, IMP select 12 to 14, I should say, people aged 18 to 30 across the country to train for 6 months and to end up running at the time then was New York City Marathon or a major marathon. Yeah, and it goes through, so we go through was a certificate in Indigenous leadership, and so we all meet from all across the country, usually have camps every couple of weeks to get together as a squad, but amongst all that you're training flat out for a marathon, 42.2 kilometers. It's hectic.
I think Coach and Uncle Rob would be proud of that little description and
that quick little summary. There's so much more to add, but
100%.
There was probably like a 30-second summary of IMP because like we said,
it's like Timmy taught us that elevator pitch. That was pretty much it. Nailed it. But just to bring it back to 5 a.m. Sisters,
Sure.
So how many of you have done that program?
Yeah, so 3 of us. Yeah, so there's 4 of us, 5 a.m. Sisters. So myself, my sister Justina, Kirsten Bond, and Lena Charles Lothel. And Sina inspired me and Lena to apply. So she ran New York City in 2016, and then I thought she was insane. But then me and Lena, we didn't apply for the next year because we were kind of so scared. And then the years after that, we had applied. So it took me 4 years to get in to be a successful applicant for IMP. And it's crazy. So now, the 3 of us have done IMP, and Kirsten always says that she would love to have done IMP, but she just missed the age cutoff. So she's like, can't you just extend the age? But Kirsten's been amazing and supportive as well. So it's IMP has had a huge influence on 5 a.m. Sisters.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's yarn about IMP now, because I think it's important to tell everyone that's where I met you, unfortunately.
Yes. No, fortunately.
Yeah, it was. And we spoke about this during our first recording.
But tell me more how much you love me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can say some nice things, but no, it was actually a little bit intimidating to meet you, because when I met you, it was a little bit of discussions around that 5 a.m. Sisters, and I thought, oh, okay, this is some pretty serious stuff. Me being naive and not knowing what it was, and I thought, oh well, you're pretty like well known and all of this stuff, and I'd say you're an influencer, absolutely, and a positive one as well. And as
Yeah.
But I thought, when I first met you, I thought, wow, this person is pretty special. And it wasn't until we sat around and we had our yarning circle and we went around and we found out each other's stories. I thought, well, actually, this whole squad is amazing. This whole squad is special. We've all, got some special experiences and stories. And I think the work that we do in our communities is huge, and, different professional roles, but also different community roles, and how people step up to address either a passion in themselves or, a community need. I think that's really amazing. But let's talk IMP. So that kind of ties into our whys. So for those that have never been involved in Indigenous Marathon Project, we go by something that's called our why. So why do you want to do this program? Why have you decided to do this insane thing, run 42 kilometers? What has driven you to not only apply for this application, but show up for the tryouts? That's huge. Going from that step to the tryout and actually run, that's a huge step. And just to quickly, sorry to get off topic, but we had our tryouts in Adelaide on Sunday.
Yes, I did see that.
And it was amazing. I wish I could have been there. to see 22 applicants. That's amazing. And
Amazing.
very proud to see that in my community. So big shout out to all of you people that tried out. But yeah, to go back to the quick definition of a why, my why was around mental health and suicide intervention and prevention. Trying to break that stigma of mental health, particularly amongst our Aboriginal men, our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander men, and normalizing conversations around mental health and normalizing asking for assistance, asking for help, and also the maintenance of mental health and having mental wellness and having tools and things like that to regulate your emotions. So that was my why. Bon, do you want to explain to everybody what your why was?
Yeah, sure. So I think I mentioned this last time. And if you've ever heard me rambling about IMP and my passion for it, you would definitely know that my why has been first and foremost about my brother. So I lost my brother close to 8 years ago now. So it's emotional, but I think my biggest why was for him. So I wanted to, everything that I have done in my life, I wanted to honor him and help keep his legacy alive as well. So yeah, everything I do that's not even just IMP, but if I'm traveling or, if I do anything significant, I always want to honor my brother in that respect. And I wanted to dedicate doing something this challenging to him and have him be on the journey with me. So like I said, I applied for IMP 4 times, and each year he has always been my why. And then throughout our IMP journey, I dedicated like all of my runs and all of my stuff to him. So yeah, he was my biggest why. But like everyone in IMP, I think we always have a deep-rooted why, but it changes and evolves over time. So a lot of mine comes back down to the kind of stuff that we do with 5 a.m. Sisters. And I try and influence my nieces in particular, but my family and friends, to encourage them to do crazy, challenging things. So, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, but I think I just wanted to be that person that they could see that was actually doing it. Someone that actually walks the walk, that doesn't just say, oh yeah, you should do this, but I want to lead by example and do something crazy. So by me seeing my sister doing something so out of her comfort zone, and seeing her succeed in it and putting in all the hard work, I was thinking, I want to do something like that. I want to encourage my nieces particularly to be able to do those crazy hard things. So I think it all sort of starts with wanting to be that positive influence on your friends and family to live healthy lifestyles. And like I was saying, you encouraging people to do scary things. Like, yes, we did something insane and something that only 1% of the world's population do, a marathon. I think it is. I think doing something as extreme as a marathon can really be a pathway to show other people that they can do scary things. And it doesn't have to be like exercise or a huge physical challenge or anything like that. It could be, applying for a new job or setting yourself a small goal, like going for a walk every day, like just doing something that puts people outside their comfort zone to allow them to then grow. I think a lot of people get so stuck in staying stagnant and not wanting to explore because it's scary. And even though, yes, it is scary, the growth that you get from doing those things is so powerful. So yeah, I am rambling again, but I think, that's probably one of my those are my 2 biggest whys of why I did IMP.
Deadly. That's amazing. And thank you for sharing about your brother as well. We, really appreciate that. Because I know that's close to your heart, and so it should be. And I think he would absolutely be 100% so proud of you. And I think everybody listening, especially myself, I'm so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished. you know, as annoying as you can be. But no, but watching you, you know, meeting you at Camp One, and seeing who you've turned into, by doing exactly what you're talking about, being in that comfort zone, stretching yourself and growing. I want to say you're a completely different person, but I don't think you are. I think you've just enhanced your original, you know, your values and who you are. You've just grown into them, and they've become so much stronger. So I think that's amazing. It's been so
Thank you.
so special to watch you grow and become, you know, the best version of yourself. And I think that's what the message you're trying to get through as well. Like, you know, you
Yeah.
put yourself in these uncomfortable positions so you can grow into your potential, and, you know, you become the best version of you. And, you know, you doing small things and even big things like moving away, to Cairns by yourself, you know, that's a scary thing. And
Yeah.
you're out there still doing, you know, amazing things like running not only one marathon, but you've run two now, and then you've gone moved interstate. You know, I think all those little, like, those things all adding up is just shaped to who you're becoming. And I think it's amazing. So
Oh, thank you. Look how
wanna-
nice he is to me.
oh, for
Usually
sure.
running me down. Not for the
No, but
gram.
yeah, for the gram. No. But I think it's important, you know. I think it's important to give people their flowers when they deserve it. And I think, you know, just showing you that appreciation is authentic, you know. I think it's, you know, I don't want to wait 20 years and be like, oh, Bon, you was deadly back in the day. Like, no, I want to say it now. And I want to say, you know,
And I
yeah.
think that's, yeah, and I think that's like we learned a lot of stuff during our IMP journey. But I think in terms of our group, like our squad, we are very like we're very vulnerable with each other, and I think it's important to, you know, tell people, you know, their successes and acknowledge those things, because what's the point of keeping it a secret? You know, like,
Right.
why not just not telling you to, you know, give me compliments all the time, but, you know, I think it's important that everybody sort of shares those things, because, you know, you give someone a compliment or like acknowledge what they've done, it makes them feel good, it makes you feel good about it. And like, why not share those positive messages? I think a lot more positivity in the world is a better thing. So
Mm,
why not
mm.
share those things? So keep talking.
But yeah, but you're right. It's so contagious. Like, I think
Yeah,
emotions and, you know, whether they're negative or positive is so contagious in what we do.
yeah,
So I think the more we spread positivity and love and
yeah,
appreciation, you know, it just makes the world a better place, you know. Um,
yeah.
but we've gone a little bit off topic, so I'll pull
Yeah,
it back.
no, should we write a song
Yeah. So, back to IMP, back to camps. You know, so
Yeah,
we have our camps, right? So we have the first camp is in Canberra, and that's a 10K. Um, we were supposed to have our second camp in the Gold Coast to run
yeah,
our half marathon,
yeah,
which got cancelled due to COVID restrictions at the time. Our
yeah,
third our third camp, I believe, was the 25K, and
yeah,
we were supposed to go to Cairns. And our fifth camp was our
30K.
30K. And
Alice was supposed to be.
originally
Yeah,
it would have been Alice, and that would have been our trial to get approval to, or not approval, I guess, selection for
yeah,
our marathon in New York. So just really quickly, what happened in our second camp, it got cancelled. So we had to do it in our own states, right? And
hmm,
third camp, we were supposed to go to Cairns. Now, because of the logistics of where we were kind of all in different states and all different access points, we decided, or coach decided, and Uncle Rob decided to split the camp. Cairns and Cairns would have a hub, and also Darwin would have a hub, because we
yeah,
had people in SA that could get to Darwin, and we had people in Alice Springs and other areas that could get to Darwin as well. And all you East Coasters were going to go out to Cairns, but
yeah,
unfortunately, what happened with you, Bon? Fill us in.
Unfortunately, New South Wales was in lockdown. So yeah, I wasn't able to get to either of the hubs. I pretty much got all the way from Burke to Brisbane. So I had to drive from Burke to Cobar, fly Cobar to Sydney, fly Sydney to Brisbane, and then fly Brisbane to Cairns. But I get to Brisbane and they're like, no, turn around. And because I was on such a late flight, there was no other flights out. So I had to stay overnight in a quarantine hotel and then do the same trip all the way back. It was not nice. There were many tears that night. But yeah, I ended up getting back to Burke and supporting the rest of the squad via Zoom or FaceTime, I think it was. And yeah, I got to watch you guys complete your 25K, which was amazing.
I honestly don't know how you did that, Bon, because when we recorded this, our failed recording as well, I forgot to tell you, like, before they made the decision to send me and Tassie up to Darwin, I was ready to message everybody and say, look, I'm turning my socials off. I'm turning everything, like, it's painful for me to watch you guys go to camp and me not be there. And that was just like, now I wouldn't do it because I just didn't have the tools to regulate those highs and lows. But I was ready to message coach and say, look, I'm gonna have to, like, pull myself back because I don't think I can handle it. But when they made the decision, oh yeah, like, Clint, you go up, like, all good. And then when I found out you couldn't come, I was like, man, I don't know. I honestly don't know how you had the strength to just sit there and be, like, so supportive as well. Like, I was just like, I myself was like, oh, it was going to be you, me, Tassie, and I think somebody else who couldn't go to the hub camps. So I was just like, nah, I don't want to go through that emotion. So, like, major props for, like, pushing through that, and because that would have been so difficult.
It was hard, but it was really hard. But I think because we have such an amazing group and like seeing how strong everyone ran, and like, I don't know, I think too, because I have been stalking IMP for so many years and I was so desperate to get into this program, I was like, nothing's gonna stop me from doing this. Like, and even though COVID was such a huge time and it caused so many disruptions, I was like, no, I'm not missing out on supporting my squad, because essentially, yes, I wanted to run the marathon, but I also wanted to gain, a squad and family that were going to influence the rest of my life. Well, not influence my life, but, like, be a part of my life. So I'm not going to, like, yes, I cried a lot, but seeing everyone succeed in that, like, seeing everyone running and, finishing and holding their medals, like, that just gave me so much strength. And I was so proud of everyone that I couldn't even sit there and be mad that I was sitting in Burke, because at the end of the day, like, listen to me, I'm so wise now, but, like, but at the end of the day, I got to witness, snippets of everyone's race where if we were all together, I'm the slowest in the group. So I wouldn't have been able to see people cross the line or, see people on the track, because everyone would have diced, like, so I can say it now because it's 2 years later, but I'm glad I was able to experience it in that way and, have the technology to see you guys running in Darwin and in Cairns.
Yeah.
I can say that now.
You can say it now. Like, you wasn't traumatized for a while.
I wasn't crying myself to sleep. Again. But it's also really hype. Like, when my sister ran New York, like, we were supporters, and it's so fun being a supporter. Like, I couldn't.
It is.
Like, I was dancing, like, I had my whiteboard, and like, it's just fun, and it's cool seeing people succeed, and I love that.
Yeah, I think that's that last sentence there. It's good to see people succeed, but I think for our mob, like, when we see someone that looks like us, that represents us, it's not just inspirational, but it's a connecting point. It's like
It's relatable,
it's
you can relate.
relatable, and you
Yeah,
know, you can't be what you can't see. So
that's it.
to see people that look like us, that have had the same upbringing as us, doing amazing things, when they win, we win. So I think
Yeah.
that's really powerful. Having
And
that
I think,
representation.
yeah, and I think too, like, because the program had to adapt because we were in COVID, and then we did our 30Ks in our home state, or like in our hometown. I thought that was a really good adaptation. Adaptation is it the word? Like, I think it was really good to change it to the
Yeah,
hometown, because the people who are supporting you through this whole journey, they get to see like that 30K. That is hard. Like, that's, I'll probably get to that later if there's enough time. But that 30K, that is such a difficult run. But there's people in your community who've been watching you and supporting you that whole time that get to see. And like for my 30K, COVID times, but my sister was there and my niece. And my niece, because they were in my social bubble, because you couldn't socialize and do all that. They were in my bubble, but the most important thing, and the thing that I take away the most from that, was during my 30Ks, that was the hardest run I've ever done in my life, like to date. But my niece was there and she got to see snippets of that. Whereas if we were at another camp, she wouldn't have been able to see that. So I think it's really important, like you said, you can't be what you can't see, but being in community and having, your family and friends and young people watching you complete this crazy thing like running 30 kilometers, that is so special. And I think that is a really good thing that has been created from COVID.
Yeah. And it seems like another time and era that like for me anyway, those restrictions, when they, it feels like it was so long ago, but I just can't imagine going back to it, and going through it. But
It was insane,
I think
hey?
I think as bad as this is going to sound, I think the way COVID affected our year was probably for the best.
Yeah.
And I think it's those small things. I mean, probably not so much you, because you had to miss out on a lot more camps than us, but you're obviously really connected with all, so it didn't affect our connection with each other.
No.
But I think in terms of what we were able to do in our own communities, bring people together, all the people that were supporting you, Bon and Burke, that was crazy. I remember, I think Cinna was putting up videos of you running past people's driveways, grabbing drinks. I think that was amazing. And just to see community come together just for running.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was just amazing.
Yeah. I think you can. Sorry. You go.
Now go on. You're right.
I think you can. You take it sort of how you want to take it. Like, yes, COVID was crap. Like, it affected so many things, and yes, it was such a hard time, and especially like for everyone in general. Not just in IMP, but the world. COVID was crazy, but I think for me, I try and like now I can say it, but like for everyone it was difficult. But I think it's what lessons you take away from it. Like you could, like my sister, she was pregnant during COVID and in a like remote town. So I think you sort of pick and choose your like how you want to take it. Like there's people that are going to be worse off than you, but I think if you can manage to put a positive, like some kind of positivity on it or a positive spin, then that's going to help you in the long run. So like with me, I had it hard, but at the end of the day, I still had my sister there and I had my niece there, and I was still able to run. Yes, I wasn't at camp, but I got to FaceTime, like on my, I think it was my 30K run, like you mob were ringing me in the last couple of Ks, So it wasn't that, like, yes, it was hard, but we adapted, and you just you just roll the punches. Like you just make it work, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think what you said there, like you got to find the positives in everything, you know, and especially in the
yeah,
negative situations, you know. I think there's always something to learn from
yeah,
everything. And if that learning is the only positive, then that's okay. But um, you know, I think people seem to look at putting silver linings on things as like
yeah,
people might think you're a bit naive, but it's actually leadership. You know, when you can start to see positives in bad situations or opportunities to grow, that's leadership. And I
yeah,
think 100% that's what we all learnt. It's definitely what I learned in my IMP year is how to be a leader, how to use my voice, how to, you know, be accountable as well, you know, in terms of whatever I say, I need to stick to
yeah,
that word, and whatever I do or whatever I say I'm going to do, I need to follow through. So I think, you know,
yeah,
leadership was a huge um, like area to grow for us. I think
yeah,
I know we did a certificate for in Indigenous leadership, but I think the way we banded together through our squad was just natural and raw leadership,
yeah.
and I think it was just to make sure that we all succeeded, and we definitely did. We definitely did.
Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity for growth. And now looking back at it, like it was hard, but looking back at it now, I think not that I wish COVID upon the world again, but you know, like it was a challenge that I needed. And it sort of worked out really well for me. Like I had applied for IMP for 4 years, and the year I got in, I was living in Burke. And when I've applied for IMP, I've always wanted to influence my friends and family in Burke.
Yeah,
So yes, I could have got in Melbourne, but would I have had the same impact on my family if I was in Melbourne? Like it would have had the same impact on my Burke family, you know, and have
yeah.
my nieces and stuff watch me. So yeah, it was a silver lining. I think it all sort of happened that way. It sort of fell into place. But yeah, I try and take a lot of the positives out of, like, even though it was difficult, I think from that experience I have grown so much in that respect. And I think
Definitely.
everyone in our squad had, or like everyone who goes through IMP, each year is different, you know. But I think for our year and the year before, during those COVID years, there was, yeah, a lot to learn and a lot to take away.
Just to bring it back to you know, you tried out 4 times. For some of the people that unfortunately aren't going to get picked this year, or you know, miss out by really close or whatever, what's some advice that you can give them?
Keep going, keep going back, and just like, I don't know, that sounds really like, duh, of course she's going to say that, but I think being persistent really helped, and um, it really shows your character. I think it's easy. I think it's easier for people not to go back than it is to go back. You know.
100%,
Um,
100%.
so I think yeah, it really shows your character, and it shows that you're determined and that you're persistent. And yes, okay, you didn't get in, but it's character building. And for me, every year I didn't get in, oh, it broke my heart. But I was like, no, I'm going back, and I'm going to have done something else deadly so I can go to this yarn and say, coach, this is what I've done. Like
Yeah,
I wanted, like, yes, I didn't get in, but I don't know how positive or negative this is, but each year when I didn't get selected, I was like, no. After the first time I didn't get selected, I was like, well, I'm running a half marathon, like to prove to you that,
mm,
I've made progress.
yeah,
And then I didn't get in again, and I was like, oh, like I was just trying to build myself, to have a better application for one, but also in doing that, I was doing amazing things for myself that had shown progress. So I could, one, show off progress to the coach, but also, yeah, okay, you might have been trying to show off, but you have done all this stuff in between. So,
yeah,
you know, regardless, I was still building on my, you know, I was still doing more things to try and increase my chances, but it didn't take away the fact that I still actually did those things. So I'm not saying I'm not saying, if you don't get in, go and run a half marathon, but you want to come back and show that you've had some growth, like it doesn't have to be exercise or anything, but you could be talking about your job, or like stepping up in another way that has shown leadership, or because at the end of the day, IMP is a running program, but there's so much more to it. So the leadership component, what your why is, that's the heart and the soul of the program, and those are the things that are going to get you to the finish line. Those strength, that strength-based approach to try and get people to that next stage. 100%. So yeah, I would say, in a nutshell, I would say keep turning up. And I think I put this on my Instagram a couple of days ago, like just keep showing up, and just keep trying, yes. And then there are people that are the older age bracket, and I can't speak, to experience because I was fortunate enough to get into the program. But, if you're too old and like you don't get in and you might miss out from that age bracket, do something else amazing, like use another platform to build yourself up and do other amazing things. There's so much out there in the world. Just go, you want to try it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, just to build on what you were talking about, Bon, I tried out twice and got in the second time. And my advice for people would be exactly what you're talking about. Your application needs to improve. That's the reality, and it might be blunt and it might be, a little bit hard to hear, but that program is hard. It's not about patting people on the bum and holding hands, and you got to do something that's absolutely insane. And to train and run a marathon in 6 months, none of us would have done that if we didn't have our own initiative. And I think that's where the why is so important. So the why is your passion, because if we talk about motivation is just fuel and it can come and go. But if you have a strong why, that is your passion, that will burn you throughout the whole program. So my advice is find a strong passion to be your why. And also, if you get knocked back, don't be disheartened. It's going to hurt, but feel it and make that a little bit of your motivation to improve. And I think
it'll give you strength, for your next run.
And actually reflect on why you might not have got picked. So for me, it was I didn't share enough of myself in my first application. So I made it a point to be an open book. And I yarned to Taki when he's got all the notes on like what stood out and on our squad. And one of the notes was Clinton really articulated himself really well. And I made it a point to make sure that I shared and I talked and I yarned about everything that I wanted to, because it was my last year, because I'm one of the old fellas. So it was my 100% last year to be eligible for the program. And I wanted to leave it all out there. And the hardest part for the tryout was showing up. And I remember having so much doubt and so much fear of not being selected, because you're going to have the, and I want to be as real as possible. You're going to have the thought process of, what if I'm not good enough? It's not about that. It's not about you're not good enough. It might just come down to the group dynamic. Your whys don't match up. It might be something simple as that. Yeah. But exactly what you're saying, Bon, IMP will never define your whole identity, so you can still do amazing things outside of IMP. IMP is just something that will help you achieve those goals, and is a platform to achieve those goals. But you could still, if you want to run a marathon, you run a marathon. Like, you don't need IMP to do that.
And you think about,
you want that job, you go for that job,
Yeah, and you think about the people that are still involved with the program, like in, the raw groups, like they may not have even had the opportunity to try it for IMP, but they're still doing amazing things. And I think running is just the the vehicle, that we use to amplify our voices and to elevate what we're already doing. So I think, I think there's so many amazing people around you that are already doing these scary things as well, who haven't even gone through the program. So I think like we're very lucky to be able to have participated in it. But yeah, if you don't get in, do it yourself or do something else scary, Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Like that's what there now. I didn't get in. Oh well, I'm running a half marathon. I'm gonna do it myself. Be a hero. But yeah, and I think it goes to show as well, like all the previous grads as well have been amazing leaders and in every aspect. So it's really a kudos, Strava talk, kudos to like all the previous grads as well who sort of set the bar and set the standard of what you're doing in the IMP group in that year that you're in the squad, but also after, and what 100%. You continue to do for IMP, but also just for our mob in general.
Yeah, and just to add to that importance of acknowledging and respecting the grads that came before us, because you're 100% right. They paved the way. They showed us the standard, and Uncle Rob has never put anyone on that start line that hasn't finished, and that requires the commitment, the discipline, the training, and the mindset to complete the marathon.
Yeah, for
which
sure.
kind of leads us into our next question, or our next section, I guess, in terms of what was your marathon like, Bon? Because when I know our group got split up, ACT and New South Wales, the three of you, you, Hope and Joy, couldn't make the Alice Springs Marathon. So we ended up running, I'm going to say, a month before you guys.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because I remember my marathon was an absolute nightmare. Do you want to talk us through yours?
Yes. So like you said, we ran, we weren't able to get into Alice, ACT or New South Wales. So the three of us ended up staying in Canberra. But the month before, or I think, 4 to 5 weeks before, you guys, the rest of the squad, ran in Alice Springs. And that was, again, we were able to watch through technology, which was amazing. Like, it was so exciting to see. But to be honest, it was kind of scary. Like, excuse me. I just felt sick thinking about it now again. No, but I watched you guys. I think it was like midnight. You just had the Moonlight Marathon. So I stayed up all hours watching you mob. But it was kind of scary watching you guys because, one, it was in darkness. 2, you didn't have Coach or Uncle Rob there, but you had amazing grads and amazing support. But it looked really hard and I was really scared. And we only got, so yours was a 7K loop, was it?
I should know this.
Or 14. No, it was, I think 14. It was 14. It was 7 up, 7 back, and you did 3 laps or something like that. Yeah.
That's right.
So, I remember watching you guys and I thought, oh my God, they look like they're in pain and now I'm going to have to do that. But you all made it through. You all got there in the end. And it was, such an emotional night. But I remember watching you guys being just like, oh crap, like we're going to have to do that. So like, and we would just see snippets of you guys like running past, like on the phone. And then you'd see them for like 5 seconds and then they were going back off into the night. And I was like, oh my gosh. But then, so we had the extra month. And me, Hope and Joy, we always say that we had leveled up in that sort of section. So we got, extra month of training. So we got, I think, 2 or 3 long runs more, which at the time was so hard. And I was so over the long runs. But in hindsight, looking back at it, it was so worth it because we had gone up a level. It was like our fitness had increased so much in just that month. So I had a really amazing run. I had the best run. I enjoyed every part of my run. I was very lucky to have so much support. So my parents came up, and my best friends from Melbourne came up, and my sister had come from Burke with my nieces. So I had like an amazing support crew. I I wouldn't say I hit the wall. So they say you usually hit the wall around 30 Ks and you just like, then you're running from your heart, you know? I don't feel like, I think I was so conditioned, big noting myself now, but I had done so much training, like, and I didn't miss a run. So all my training, I ticked every box off, you know? So I got there and I had the mentality in my head, you're just picking your medal up now. That's when I went in, I was like, you're just going to pick up your medal. You know, this is your victory lap. Yeah. So it sounds like big noterish, but
that's a powerful message. That's a powerful message, Bon.
I was like, I'm confident. Like, I was very confident. I was nervous, but I was like, you've done the work. You know, you've done it, and now you're just going to pick your medal up. So one last hurrah, one last lap, and you get your medal. And I get my famous photo of Uncle Rob's hands there, talking and I'm crying. Like, so yeah, I had an amazing run. I cramped up like maybe, I think it was like 34 Ks. Had some pickle juice, was right. But yeah, like I think I dealt with, like, I had a great run, but I hit things on the head early. So I was hungry, I ate. If I was cramping, I had pickle juice. If I had a headache, I had a Panadol. You know, like I just sort of, I managed it really well. I did have amazing support. So I had Rhett, who ran the whole run with me, just fluked it. Like he just didn't even train, but he was amazing support. He took care of me. I had my dad riding the bike with me for 20 Ks, and Lena ran, I think, over 5 Ks with me, and Kirsten rode, and my mum and my sister were driving around, like following me. So I had the best time. So I can't even complain about my run, because sometimes when I look back and I think about you mob running, I remember seeing Maddie on the screen at one stage, and he was struggling, you know, and a lot of like seeing you only for like that snippet, I was like, oh my God, are they okay? Like, and you ran in the dark. I don't think I would have been able to do that.
I was not okay. I just want to put it out there. I was not okay.
Tell us, how did you go, Clinton?
So my first marathon story is very different from yours. So I am not someone that does well in the heat, especially any running. So for us to go to Alice Springs was just not good for me. But
it was already
yeah. And then the rationality of, we'll run at night, so it'll be cool. It's like, nah, that is not true.
No, I'll run in the heat instead.
There's so much heat that gets trapped in the road, because we ran on the road. So it's from Simpsons Gap out to I forget the main road, which ended up being that 14K loop. The amount of heat that still was coming up, it knocked me, and I didn't realize it until it hit me. And when it hit me hard. So like, I was a big shot, and the first kind of lap down, I was like, oh, like I'm probably running faster than what I probably should be, but I feel good. And you know, so I went there, did the 14, and went back, and then back to the start line, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine, like I'm good. And then I ran back, and then it just hit me hard, and I was just like, what is this? I like never felt that much fatigue. And it wasn't until we turned running back, there was like I think it was a ranger's outpost or whatever, which had like a toilet block. And so I'm going to say I ran, but it was kind of like the pace I was running was definitely a walk. The shuffle. And so I went in there and had this like torch thing on my head, but I didn't even realize. I just dunked my head in the sink and like wet my face, and then just splashed all the water onto me. I was drenched in water, and I was dehydrated. And once I did that, I was like, all right, I'm getting back to the start line, and that's it for me. Like I
I'm
can't run.
done.
I convinced myself. I was like, I'm done. These aren't the conditions I trained in. This is unfair. And I remember having those conversations. I was running there. I was like, and then out of nowhere, it was just like, because I'm a big advocate on the inequity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and the social determinants that we live in. And I just thought to myself, it just hit me out of nowhere, and I was like, how dare me say this, you know, how dare me take myself out of this uncomfortable environment because it's not to my liking. It's not
It's an
to
easy
my,
option.
it's the easy way out. And I just thought, how dare you? This is not what you did this program for. So once I got closer, I was like, nah, I don't care how long this is going to take me, because in my mind, I was chasing the time,
Yeah.
and instead of experiencing what the marathon was really about. So once I let go of that, and then I saw Ray Landers, who I trained with all through my program. So we did every long run. Ray was with us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he knew I was struggling, because obviously the times weren't matching up to where I should have been. So he actually had come out a little bit from the start line, and he saw me, and just to see him just like picked me up, and then he was yarning to me, and then I was getting picked up, and I was like, nah, I'm finishing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was enough for me. And then I came back, and I'd caught up to because I was at the end. I was at, like, everybody had passed me, and like Tristan passed me, and I was so angry. I was just like, mm. I was like, no, because I remember, and this is like a little, I haven't even told Tristan this, but I remember Camp 1. He was like, oh, me and you probably end up running marathon together. And in my head, I was like, yeah, keep it up with me. I was like, yeah, keep it up with me. That was my ego, and like ego's long gone since then. But and then he passed me, and then the ego came back. I was like, oh, he's gonna beat me. He's gonna finish before me. Like, and then once I had let that go, I caught up to Tristan, and like he was hurting too, and I was just like, man, like this run, like this marathon business is no joke. Like it breaks people.
Like we are here struggling.
Like, yeah, the struggle is real, and like honestly, it just breaks you. And for me, like I kind of like I think my eye twitched when you said like you didn't hit the wall, because I hit the wall early. Like I hit
the wall in my 30K. That one killed me.
See, I hit the wall at like 15 Ks, I reckon, and that was tough. Like
that's a long. That's soon. That's early.
That's early, and to be in that struggle for so long, like it plays games with your brain, and like
it's like every 27 Ks of you still got 27 Ks left.
And every step kills you. Like it hurts you, and you're like, why am I doing this? So that's to go back to, if there's any people who are interested in applying for IMP, that's why the why is so important, because that's that sustainability. Because your brain will tell you, it will literally tell you, stop, walk, stop doing what you're doing. This is painful. Quit. You're not ready for this. You didn't train hard enough. Your body's breaking down. Like that's what your brain would start telling you, and you're like, wow, maybe I should just stop. So that's why that why is so important. But I got through it, and like when we had our race debrief, we were talking about the conditions and how our run went. And I remember saying, for me, it was like my whole IMP year was about mental health. So the metaphor, I guess, of running in the darkness and then coming into the finish line where everything was lit up, and we ran through the little tape. I don't remember running through the tape, to be honest with you, but I did it. But I just remember thinking, like, this is me leaving behind my mental health struggles and everything like that, and it's coming into the light and almost being like reborn type thing. And I know that's a little bit dramatic, but
no, a lot of people have that experience.
For people like us that have experienced that, they will understand. And that's why I think we stress and preach the importance of doing these amazing things, because when you feel that feeling, you just want everybody to feel it. You know, it's such an amazing experience, and it doesn't have to be through marathon running either. It can be through anything that you set your mind to, that you struggled with, and you got the outcome. And I think I just can't explain it any better than that. Like, everybody should feel that feeling at least once in their life, because it's honestly one of the best, other than my children.
Don't forget about
that. better make sure I say that. But other than my children, those 2 marathons that I've run have been probably one of the highlights of my life, and it's something that no one can really, I don't think anyone can articulate it to the full extent of what it is. You need to experience it.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I talk about the marathons and I'm just like, oh my God, it was so amazing. Like, I feel like this and like, but it just doesn't capture every feeling that
it doesn't
like,
hit
I'm not the most articulate person in general, but then when I try and talk about the marathon, I'm just like, I can't explain. I want you to feel this feeling. And I think what you were saying, like, that's what's so important, and why I think so many of us are just like, want people to run. And I think too, go rambling again. So a lot of people are like, it's running. I'm not going to do that. It's not about the run. Like, yes, it's about the running. And there's so many things that you're saying that I'm like, oh, talk about this, talk about that. But the 2 things, the one main thing that I want to talk about with the running is, yes, it's running, but it strengthens your mental capacity, or like it trains your mind to be strong. Like, one, you're doing it, you're getting physically strong, your body is trained, it's conditioned, but you're conditioning your brain. Like, I'm going to ramble on about my 30K really quickly. My 30K was the hardest run I've done in my life to date. And everyone, you've got to have one of those runs because you can reflect on it. My 30K, I was about 25 Ks in, 25. And this was the amazing run where I had all of my community around me, writing chalk messages on the driveways and handing me water. It was amazing. Like, it was so good. But then I ran out on the levee bank where nobody was, and I ran from 25, about 25 Ks. I had my parents, talking to my parents in my headphones, and I was struggling. It was hot. And I said out loud to them, they're like, hey, go and do it. I was like, this is hard. It's so hard. And then I kept saying, this is hard. This is hard. And then I said, I can't do this. I can't do it. And in the distance, I could see my sister and my niece. And I was like, once I get to them, I'm done. And I get to them, I stop my watch, this exact watch, I turn it off, and I'm like, I can't do it. Had a breakdown, got a full-blown breakdown, cried, and what felt like 20 minutes of me having a breakdown was probably only like 5 minutes. And I was like, I can't do it. My niece was there and she was watching me. She was only 5 or 6 at the time. She was like, don't cry, anybody. This I always remember. Don't cry, anybody. You can do it. And it just broke me. And I was like, I can't have her watch me fail or quit. Not fail. I don't want her to see me quit and just chuck it in. And I hung up the phone to my parents and I rang Tucky. I was like, Coach, I was like, oh, I can't do it. I'm struggling, and he's like, where are you? I only had 2 Ks left. 2 Ks on the same track I had been running this whole time. But I ended up finishing it very slowly. But the main thing about that, and I always take it away, it was my biggest lesson of IMP for both years, about speaking positively to yourself. And I spoke in that moment, I'd spoken so negatively. I was like, you can't do this. You're done. I quit. And as soon as I spoke those words into the universe, I was like, nah, I'm done. And I dug myself a hole and I was like, I'm finished. And I had spoke to Coach after, and after a couple of minutes, I actually remember I yelled out. I was like talking to him. I was like, I got this. In my head, I was like, I got this. And I yelled out, and no one was around. I've got this. I'm going to do this. Right? And I was like, but as soon as I said it out loud, it was still hurt, but my mindset had changed, and I was like, no, you're finished this. And the way I like I crept out of that hole that I had just dug myself, but it was crazy. And that's what IMP has really taught me, you know, the mental, like how well you train, like really reflects your mental, not mental state. That sounds like you're crazy. Like it really shows like how strong you can be. And that training trains your mind to be strong, trains your spirit to be strong. So yes, you're hurting. Yes, you're struggling, but you're like, no, my body is in peak condition. I'm getting to the end,
Yeah.
And then I end up taking that into Athens Marathon. And I was like, no, this whole time you're talking, like, I don't want to hear one negative word at your mouth.
Yeah, I know the moment you're referring to. So for those that don't know, surprise, surprise, I struggled again in my second marathon. But this time it was because of the lack of training, and I should have trained a lot harder than what I did. But what Bon's referring to is when I'm gonna say it's past the halfway. So I did a lot better making it to the halfway point of the Athens Marathon, and I think that was just purely the weather was a lot better. But there was a lot more hills, and
so many hills.
The hills were ridiculous. But so I ran. So this time it was flipped for me and Tristan. I was like, I'm gonna run with Tristan this time. Like that's the mindset I came into this marathon with.
Yeah.
And I think at the 10K mark, he took off.
Yeah, he left. I was like, Jesus.
He left us, and I was like, oh, he
I was like,
ready.
that is it?
I was like, oh, he came ready, and I was like, no worries. I'll run with who were we running with?
You were with
Morgan.
Yeah, we started with
Morgan. That's right. I was like, I'll run with Morgan then, like, and I was filming her a little bit, and like I've got a clip of her, and she was so confident.
Yeah.
And I kind of, that's the moment where I questioned myself. I was like, can I keep up with Morgan? And
that's what I was like, yeah, run with Morgan. 5Ks in. I was like, bye, I can't keep up with you more.
Yeah, she was like, I think it was just after Tristan left, and I was running, and I was just like, yeah, okay, like I'll do the grad thing. I'll run with Morgan and just like capture her journey.
Yeah.
And she just started pulling away. I was like, oh, nah, and then I was like, nah, she did that IMP training. Like she smashed it. She smashed, and she took off, and then the doubt came in. I was like, man, am I going to finish this?
Yeah.
And like, that was just at the 21K. So like halfway through.
Really, yeah.
And then she took off. I think you had passed me, Bon. And then that's when my doubt came in. Because I was looking at the road and I was like, man, this is so hilly. These hills ain't no joke. And every water station, I was just like, boom, boom, like Powerade, water. Like they were giving us like the 600 ml bottles. And I was like, boom, drink half the bottle, tip the rest on top. Like I was just like, had this routine down.
Yeah.
But I was like doing okay, but I wasn't doing my best. And then I remember I'd caught up to you. I caught up, didn't I?
Yeah, I caught you. I was behind, and I think
you passed
I overtook you. I went to the toilet, and then we sort of caught each other again.
Yeah, that's right. And then I was like, I don't know if I can keep up with you, Bon. And then I was like, just back in my head, and I was like, I'll just run and see how I go. And then I remember I must have said something and you pulled me up straight away. I was like, I must have said like, oh, this is hard or something like that. Oh no, you asked how I was going, I think.
Yeah.
And then I was like, not good, man.
I was like, no.
Like it honestly, like you didn't slap me, but the words felt like a slap to the face.
Yeah. If words could slap, it would have been.
It was like so stern. I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, maybe I don't want to run with you.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I'll just drop. But nah, yeah, and that's when you actually told me this yarn. You was like, nah, that positive self-talk is so important when we're doing this exercise. And
Yeah.
I was like, it made sense to me because I do this myself. You know, I do a bit of journaling and I do affirmations and things like that. But I had never thought of it, and it's weird because, you know, like all this running training, you'd think I'd practice it in my runs, but I'd never even thought about it. I was just like, oh yeah, running's hard, like, yeah, push through.
Yeah.
But when you
This
pulled
is what
me
it
up,
feels like. This is what it should feel like. Yeah.
yeah. But when you pulled me up, I was like, nah, like that actually makes a lot of sense. And then I remember you kept asking me like, how am I doing? I was like, yep, good, I'm fine.
Yes.
And then
I
like
said, tell me how good you feel.
yeah. And then you were telling me about your watch. You was telling to me about your watch. Like tell everyone about your little things on your watch.
I have from my first marathon. I remember Timmy Duggan. We had leadership. One of the sessions with him, and he was talking about how he wakes up every morning and he gives himself a compliment. He looks in the mirror and he goes, "Oh, you're deadly," and like it's a joke, but he automatically makes himself laugh, and it's just like a good start to the day. You know, like you make yourself laugh, you're in a good mood. But yeah, he'll go, "Oh, you neat, like you're deadly," and I always remember that. And sometimes I do it to myself, like just for a laugh, start your day off. Pretty funny. But I remember on my first marathon, I changed my settings for my watch. So every time I wanted to have a goo or a drink or something like that, every 45 minutes, because I was like routine, like that first marathon, I was just like eat 45 minutes, a goo, drink, like I was just scheduled. But on my watch, I had changed the settings to you deadly, eat. So then it would remind me to have like the food, but two, I was like giving myself a compliment, like, yeah, you did it, and it would make me laugh, and I was like, that's hilarious. So I haven't changed it, so it's still on my watch, even when I'm just out for like park run or something. Every 45 minutes, I'll be like, you deadly? And I'm like, yeah, I'm deadly.
I love that because it's funny, you know, we talk about ripple effect, right? And it's funny that Timmy had passed that to you, and then you passed it to me, and like in my current role, I talk about that. I talk about giving yourself compliments and talk about looking in the mirror and saying, you know, you're deadly and things like that. So it's just one example of like capturing the ripple effect. And it doesn't have to be exercise and running. It can be things like that, like words of affirmation, positive self-talk. It's so important.
We were talking about earlier about, you know, like when you were talking about the good things about me, but like, you know, sharing those things, because, you know, like when someone, like if I see a stranger and I'm like, you know, their outfit, or like, I'll be like, oh, cool jacket or something, you know, if someone gives me a compliment, I'll like look around, I'm like, yeah, like, why not? Like, who are you hurting by giving someone a compliment or like spreading positive messages? And if it's going, like in that instance, when we're running, if it's going to make you feel better and get to the end of this race, why not? 100%. And I said to you, tell me how good you feel. Like, how do you feel? Right. Oh yeah, tell me. And then, but it's just the action and the words coming out to be like, I feel good. Because my first marathon, I was running I'd see people along and they'd be like, how are you feeling? Like, I'm not, and every time I made it a point to be like, I feel good. I feel good. And I swear it made the world of difference.
It's like that quote, like you speak it into existence.
That is exactly what it is. Like, no, this is how I feel. I'm making it happen.
Yeah. Totally. I love that.
But yes, we finished the marathon all together. Me, you, and Tristan. We crossed the finish line. It was amazing.
And I've got that photo framed. It's in my house. So my TV's on the wall, and it's on the shelf, like, and it's right next to my Xbox, my other prized possession.
So many memories.
Oh, I tell you what, that new Hogwarts game, I tell you what.
No, that was like, that's gonna be one of my best memories. Like, obviously, a finish line is going to be hectic, like, and amazing. And all those feelings that we were talking about that are indescribable. But crossing that finish line with you and Tristan was, like, one of the highlights, like, of everything, you know, like, being able to for us all to cross together, going into that, you know, authentic, iconic stadium, and then seeing our mob with the flags up in the distance, coach waiting at the finish line, like, that was just unreal. Like,
and for our listeners, sorry to cut you off, Bon, but for our listeners, where we finished was the OG, the original stadium of the Olympics. So for us to see our flag in a place as iconic as that, you know, it really meant a lot. And I just remember the energy, like, coming into that stadium.
So
I just felt like I was vibrating, and I just remember being, like, so lifted. And I was looking at Trist, and he was just, like, not having it.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want to do it. And I was like,
he was like, poor fella was hurting, but I just remember, like, getting so hyped, and I was like, man, like, we are gonna do this, like. And I've got the photo, and the
you
faces,
should share
like,
it on your socials.
Yeah, I will. And the faces that we have are different because we're like, I'm doing this weird, like, type face.
You were like swearing. You were like,
I was.
Yeah, and I was just like, no.
And you were happy.
Tristan's just like, I hate this.
He's gonna hate that photo when I share it, but I'm just gonna do it.
but it's like, it's raw, and that's what I love about it. You know, like, there's so many emotions that go on in the whole duration of the marathon. That was just a snippet of, you know, all the feelings that we had felt. I remember being like 2Ks out, and I was like, we are on the road, like, we are there. I was like, come on, boys, like, let's leg it. Like, I was ready. And
I remember, like,
no, you go.
I remember you had your bag, right? And you just slung it like Bon, for people that weren't there. Bon had this, like, bag, and it had the had all the snacks, and it had the hydration, like, I forget what they called, like a camel pack.
Yeah, the camel pack.
Yeah. And I just remember being, like, so zoned out, and, like, I was just kind of going through the motions. All of a sudden, like, Bon just, like, slings her bag off into the gutter. I was like, what? What are you doing?
What is going on?
And then I remember you said something like, "Oh, it did its job," or something like that. So
I was like, thank you. So I was like, I'm not. I was like, one, I didn't want to get rid of it because that was the bag I used for my first marathon. And it was so special, but I also bought a new one because I thought I'd lost it. But I was like, no, I'm going to throw that away because I don't want to cross the finish line with my bag. I want to have, like, my name, like, in clear view. So I was like, I'm going to get rid of this bag. And I remember taking it off, and I was like, thank you, bag. You've done me justice, or something. You've done your job. I kissed it and I chucked it. And there was these strangers, and they're like, why is she throwing her bag away? There was nothing in it. It was like, I think it just had, like, the roll on, like the chafe roll on, and, like, deodorant and toilet paper. Like, it didn't have anything in it. But I remember chucking that bag, and I was like, we are on the home stretch. Like, let's go. Like, I was so hyped.
You were hyped, and, like, I was just like, whoa, chill. Like, don't.
And you're like, dude, we still got a couple Ks left. Like,
I was just like, do not pick up. Like, in my head, I was telling myself, like, do not pick up the pace, because because I'm the same. When I get close, my pace picks up, and I'm just like, I'm gonna, like, hype. I'm getting so hyped, and in that moment, because my feet were killing me, like, I was just like, nah, you're right, bub. Like, you take it easy.
But how about, like, when you're coming into the last part, it's like downhill.
Yeah.
And because like the legs are so fatigued, I just remember my legs just feeling like jelly, and
mine was wobbling.
Yeah, and I was like, I always wanted to floor it to their finish line, but I was like, no, I want to finish this with these two. You know, like, I wanted us all to cross the line together, and it's so funny because I go back and I watch the video, and I'm like, I thought I was flying. I go back, I'm literally like running so slow.
Yeah, when I
It's so
saw
good.
when I saw that clip, I was like, nah, like what
I was like,
they put a
is this in
filter like slow-mo, like,
yeah, is this in slow motion? Because I was cruising.
and it felt like we were flying towards the finish line.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that video, I guess the video don't lie.
yeah. Maybe it just had technical issues as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Nah, that was yeah, that was amazing. And seeing like everyone at the finish line and then just going back and watching and as grads seeing, Seymour and Morgan finish, like that was
yeah,
powerful. That was really
yeah,
powerful.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. That's so like inspiring, and you're very inspiring, and I'm sure you're influencing a lot of people, Bon.
Oh,
But
thank you.
what I want to ask is like who's been your influence, or like who was a key, and I'll cut you off before you say me, but but who's been like a big influence in your life, Bon, and kind of shaped you into who you are?
Yeah. So I think um like recently who inspires me is definitely our squad and grads. I can definitely speak to our squad. Um, I think our squad is amazing. Like I think everybody in their own squads talk about their squads because that is your group. But I think for me, going forward, like after our marathon, being inspired by, I've been inspired so much by our group and what people are doing outside of running, and I think the marathon not changes you, but it shows you how much potential you have and what you can achieve. And there's been so much change since the start of our program to when we finished. So many people have moved on in different jobs or traveled or moved away. Like they're just excuse me, putting themselves out there
Mm.
and doing huge things, like doing things that are inspiring. So one, I will say you guys, like since the marathon, all of you inspire me um in your personal lives as well as in running. But definitely my parents and my sister, um, they're definitely been really big influences on my life. Like my sister, obviously, through her doing IMP, but just in other aspects of her life, my parents have always been so supportive of me and always encouraged me to do those scary things, even before IMP, like they've always pushed me to do my best and made me do uncomfortable things. So like here I am telling people like go out and do scary things. Like it's not that easy, Bonnie, but it's almost like my parents pushed me or directed me in that way and made it okay, for me to try new things or you know, they're just amazing, supportive parents. And
Mm.
but the greatest influence has been probably my nan. So my mum's mum, she's a strong Aboriginal woman and has been through so much in her life, like so many of our old people. But I can talk to my nan because she's my nan, and yeah, she's an incredible woman, and she turned 80 last year, and she's just had so much hardship in her life, but she always manages to take the positive out of things, and she still strives to be a good person and a positive and happy and chirpy person. And I don't know, I think I like to be very bubbly, and I think I get that from her. I think she's a bit of a jokester, and yeah, I'm inspired by how she makes people feel, oh, look here. Gosh, this is my nan.
Oh, man.
My mom and
Beautiful.
my nan, our crew, and my nieces and friends. But
Who's
yeah,
that handsome fella there?
who
Is
that
that
big head there? That one, the big center of attention. um, yeah, I think she's just She's looking at me with that little smirk too. I think, yeah, I'm inspired to be a positive person, and I think I really get that from her. And just, make people happy, or, make people laugh and inspire people. So I would say my nan. Plus so many other people, but those are the main ones. And my 5 a.m. sisters.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to acknowledge the ones that come before us. We talked
Yeah.
about our grads, but also, our elders, definitely.
Yeah.
They've paved the way to make spaces like IMP possible. So I think that's really important to acknowledge, and especially this year being the NAIDOC theme, for the elders. I think it's timely to acknowledge them, and show that respect and appreciation, because they are our trailblazers. They're our leaders. They're our original leaders, and we wouldn't be here without them. So,
and I think, sorry, I'm gonna just quickly add on to that.
Yeah,
and I think,
you go for it.
Sorry, I think it's like talking to that. I think it's really important to, one, put yourself in those scary, spaces to do scary things and make you feel uncomfortable, but to grow. But also doing those things because that's what our old people have paved the way for us to do. And if you don't take those opportunities with two hands, like, it's almost disrespecting them, so
definitely.
yeah, that sounds really but like, I think we owe it to them,
because they didn't have the opportunities that us young fellas do, and I'm holding on to that young title, even though I'm
how we say, I thought you was Uncle Clinton.
Well, until you start calling me uncle. But no, it's true. Our elders have not had the same opportunities as we do, as younger people do, and it's really important to acknowledge that and act on it as well, because the sacrifice that they have made for these opportunities is huge, and we do need to honor that work and that commitment. That's our responsibility as younger people and as leaders as well. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you talked a lot about, Bon, you've talked a lot about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and growing. So what's next for you, in terms of, you're a 2-time marathoner, what's the next thing for Bon?
I think we spoke about this a little bit last time, but like I said, I'm currently living in Cairns, so I actually just got a promotion to team leader. So working, thank you. So working tackling Indigenous smoking for Puna Pima Cape York Health Council. So we're based in Cairns, but we service the Cape. So I think what's next for me is just really trying to hone in on my skills as a team leader, because this is a totally new title for me. I've never been in this sort of position before, so I just want to really work hard to be the best sort of team leader or person in my position, and just try and do as much as I can to try and improve health outcomes for, especially around smoking cessation, for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Cape York. So I'm really enjoying my job at the moment. So I think what's next for me is just really trying to focus on doing a good job where I am right now, and also meeting new people and trying new things. I've been here for a year, and I'm just trying, like you would know, but I've played a lot of sport, like growing up. So I've played so much netball, and then all I've been doing is running for the last 2 years. So what's next for me is trying to spread out a bit more and play some social sports, and because I went to beach volleyball the other day and I was so uncoordinated. But anyway, that's irrelevant. But no, I just want to pick up some more social activities like sports and I don't know, maybe dancing or something. I'm not a good dancer, but trying new things. And I just want to try and put myself out there a bit more with trying to learn new things and meet new people, really. That's about it. What about you, Clinton?
Well, this is a pretty big project for me. So getting this podcast up and running. As you know from our first recording, this is very new for me, and trying to learn how to do this effectively and improve each episode. But this is a pretty big commitment for me. But like you, I've I'm in a new role. So I run programs. I work in corrections now, so I run programs for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander men in the justice system. So that's pretty big passion for me at the moment. So, and of course I got my two boys. My two boys are my biggest focus. Yeah, they're my babies. They're very, 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 very important to me. So just trying to, I sacrificed a lot of time, through my IMP years, and I think I definitely owe that time back to them, and just trying to be as present as I can, because marathon training is a huge commitment, and it does unfortunately take up some of your personal time. But it's about being that role model and that leader, and that they will look up to, and not try to emulate me, but I want to teach them to be the best versions of themselves, and the best
teach them to do scary things too.
Absolutely, and it might not be marathon running, it could be anything. So just trying to teach them that. So that's what's next for me. But I guess that leads probably more into my next question, Bon. You've done amazing things, and you're an amazing person, but like, what do you want to be remembered for? I guess, and what I mean is, when your grandchildren, or your great nieces, or whoever it might be, when they look at Auntie Bon, or Mum, or Grandma, whatever you're going to be, what do you want to be remembered as?
I want to be remembered as someone who takes chances, like not in like something insane, but like
a gambler.
Yeah, like 200 on red black.
Yeah, go have a press. Nah, I'm not gonna.
Nah, I think I want to be known for someone to take opportunities. I've traveled a lot already in my 30 years of being around, but like things like exploring the world, or like for me, picking up and moving to Cairns. I don't have kids, so I can do those things at this time in my life. So taking opportunities that's suitable for my lifestyle at the time, I think. So for me, I was able to just sort of pick up and leave and come to Cairns because I can, who knows, like in 10 years, I might have a family that might change things and make it totally different, but still being able to take opportunities that present themselves. And I feel like things will present to yourself, but like trying to prioritize what fits best for you at the time for your growth. You really sorry, I'm rambling again, but yeah, prioritizing what, if it's going to work for you at that time, then do it. But yeah, taking chances and living life, that sounds so cliche, but I don't want to, be 99 years old and being like, oh, I should have done that. I wish I had done that.
Yeah. And
obviously you can't do everything, but, just really trying to live life to the fullest. And like I was saying, taking those opportunities that, old people didn't have. And then, but also, leading the way to show my family, like my nieces and stuff, that, you can do those things. And I keep saying, do scary things, but that's like my motto. But, I think that's what I want to be remembered by. Someone who who lives life to the fullest, and takes opportunities, and leads by example. You know, like not just talking the talk, but actually walking the walk.
or running the run.
Or running the run. Or shuffling the shuffle.
Nah, that's great. And I think that point, what you're saying, like, you know, it's a bit cliche, but that's why they're cliches, is because so many people don't do those things. And, you know, it's that repetitive, you know, thought process, or the repetitive saying, like, you got to live life to the fullest, because a lot of people don't. And that's the sad reality. So I think you're definitely someone that does walk the walk. You do what you say. And I think that's so powerful. But in terms of how can people keep in touch with you after this? Yeah. So we winded down the episode, but yeah, do the plugs. Like, can they get you on Insta? Like, what's the go?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook. You can follow me on my you can follow me on 5 a.m. Sisters, or my personal account, which Clinton's gonna link when he posts this.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, hit me up.
Obviously, like, people that are listening, this is the most serious, other than the first recording, which failed. This is the most serious me and Bon have ever been. So this is, you know, there's got to be an element of laughter and silliness. So
I know, it's so funny. It's so funny because, like, we have like deep and meaningfuls, but we can never hold it for that long. We always like we like have a joke, and then we're like talk about something deep and meaningful, and then it was like, what about this? And I could go on, but it's this is like the longest time we've spoken seriously without joking. Nah, but no, it's so good. I'm glad you asked me to be on this, and I'm glad that you're doing it, because I think this platform is gonna take off. Like, there's so many people out there that you can have on this podcast. Is it what you're calling it? Podcast? Yeah, podcast. I just had to clarify. No, but there's so many amazing people that you can have on this podcast that are going to influence so many people as well. And not even influence, but, you know, share people's stories and talk about the amazing things that they're doing, putting that into the universe. Like, it's going to be, I'm really excited to see where it goes. So thank you for having me on here. Is that the end?
Thank you. Yeah, we're wrapping up. We're wrapping up. But I thank you. You did my job, but I want to thank you for coming on the show. Episode 1 is always a bit shaky, but thank you so much for.
So episode 1 2.0.
yeah. Let's clarify that. So 1.1 or 1.2 or whatever you want to call it, but. Thank you so much for being on, sharing your authentic self as well, and the commitment, you know, the commitment to coming back and re-recording. That's huge, you know, and
that's all good.
Yeah, really do appreciate this, but we'll wrap it up now, I think, and we can talk silly offline.
No, thank you for having me. It's been awesome. I can't wait to see who else you get on here.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, Bon. Appreciate it.
All right. What's your tagline out? You know how people have like fading things?
Yeah. I haven't figured out what that's going to be yet.
Just wing it right now. Put you on the spot.
No way. No. That's the yarn. Catch you later.
I like it.
No, that's dumb.